or you can reach out. And what we did, we reached out because what I lost, it's being replaced with such wonderful faces, and I don't feel lonely. I mean, who the hell want to be around an old broad? But you guys are sweet. And I'm truly happy because so much we're remembering. Because let me tell you something, as you get older, you forget a lot of things. I mean, the wonderful things you want to remember, you can't remember. So you make me remember. You're part of what my past was. And when I see you dance, and I see you rehearse, and I see you continue this marvelous thing called swing, that's why you encourage me to write about it. I want to document it. I don't want to forget it because we gave so much to the world. It was our music, our sound that went around the world because they said we didn't have no talent. They said we had no art. And up came Louis Armstrong. And then we had Count Basie. And to be with these great guys. And now I have dances. And I didn't know that you were going to be here. Chris called me and said, I had my book and he wanted me to come, a book signing. Now, this happened just last week, and here I am with the books, and you're all here. Oh, God is good, Chris. I know, I missed a lot of things. I know a lot of, I never had the husband, and I never had the babies or nothing like that. I wind up being an old-ass spinster, but it beats being an old maid. I tell the world, to admit to the world you're an old maid is like telling the world you're grown old on the vine and you ain't been plucked. Dearie, I have been plucked.
So here's the thing. I called up Norma, and I was like, Norma, do you know next year's 2011? And I go, and she goes, what is that? What's that going? What's happening in 2011?
What is?
Well, it's the 70th anniversary of Hellzapopping because the movie was filmed in 1941. So.
Oh wow.
So I think that's a big deal.
2011. It's being optimistic. We count the days as I wake up and I say, I'm awake. It's scary because you feel a little shaky because 90, now the next is 91. But I don't worry about it because I told my manager, I said, listen, I got to live to be 100 to get out of debt.
So for the past 8 or 9 days, Norma has called me and we spent some really good conversations. And can you touch upon Fletcher Henderson and the different house bands?
Oh yeah, listen, I was fortunate to know all the bands because remember, there was a thing then called black show business and white show business. So when we worked with black shows, which would mean a black band, black dance band, blah, blah, blah. Consequently, out of that came my association with Duke Ellington. I did Jump for Joy with Duke Ellington. I did the first black show to go into Las Vegas with Count Basie. And I did what they call the Chitlin circuit around the world with Chick Webb and the vocalists, Ella Fitzgerald. I mean, so my associations were just fabulous. When you look back, I said, hey, I knew that dude. I mean, and the greatest guy of all was the man that gave us this great sound. That was the great Louis Armstrong. And now every year I go to New Orleans to recreate the sound with young jazz musicians. And I MC the show and tell the people, look, put an instrument in those kids' hands and they won't be breaking into your houses. Well, crime don't pay.
Let's talk about your new book, Norma.
Well, the new book is the history of swing from the time it began in the 20s. Now, I've been watching all the shows on television, and if you notice, our dance is neglected. And consequently, it's never no swing. I mean, are you telling me with all that I'm around and we're not good enough to be on their shows? So I had to write some letters to ABC and NBC, and they made the mistake of saying, having the dancers do a jitterbug. Well, Frankie never did like that name Jitterbug, and neither did I. And I said, how dare you take a dance that we created called the Lindy Hop, and you dare trivialize it by saying it's the Jitterbug. Don't you know the story of the Jitterbug? The Jitterbug was when Benny Goodman was playing the Paramount, and he looked out and the kids was dancing in the aisle. He said they looked like a bunch of jitterbugs. It doesn't a dance. Why would you take our dance and call it jitterbug? And then all of a sudden I saw jitterbug, jitterbug. I couldn't stand it anymore. So we sent the letter, and last year, opening sequence of Do You Think You Can Dance? The first dance was the Lindy Hop. And they recognized Frankie Manning, and they spoke about Frankie Manning because of the fact he was the guru of swing dancing. So I called Frankie. I say, Frankie, you got back your dance. And Frankie said, well, I didn't want them calling me no jitterbug. And that was what he died shortly after that, but I was able to give him that message. But that we gave the world the only original dance in the world. Everything was brought to this country.
Can you talk about the Savoy Ballroom and how integrated it was?
Oh, well, no other ballroom. See, we couldn't go to the other ballrooms. So we were in the Savoy. Everybody came to the Savoy. We didn't object to white dancers coming to the... We had as many white dancers as we had black dancers, and they were all good. Don't misunderstand. They were good. But that's what it was. It was something that brought Lindy Hop swing dancing brought people together. And that's what we do. Look at you. Dancing bring you together. And that's what the world needs. The world needs a whole lot of love. You need some love and get rid of that other bullshit. I mean, bullshit. Checks.
All right. Talk about Twist Mouth George bringing you for your first time into the Savoy Ballroom.
Well, Twist Mouth George was the one that actually created this style called swing. There was a group of dancers, Shorty Snowden and Twist Mouth George. These were the guys that created this dance because it was Shorty Snowden. After Lindbergh made the flight, he named it, they asked him what was the dance, he called it the Lindy Hop because of Lindy's flight. Now there was Twist Mouth George, who was one of the great exponents of the dance, and he was 6 feet tall, I mean good looking, natty dress, sharp, I mean thin like a rail, and a mouth all the way over by his ear. You know, that's why he was called Twist Mouth George. And I'm dancing in the street on Easter Sunday.
How old were you?
And he asked me, he called me, and I'm, you know how kids are cavorting, and it's a matinee, 4 o'clock, and the music is playing, and he saw me. And he said, hey, kid. And I was 12. 12 years old. I was, man, I could dance my ass off at 12. Boy, was I good. And he said, do you want to come up and dance with me? Now, I didn't come up to his legs. And I went up to that Savoy, and he sat me down and brought me a Coke in the corner. And he said, are you ready, kid? I said, yeah. I was precocious. And we swung out. I mean, we tore it up. Damn it, nobody there I knew I did that. Damn. Anyway, he walked me around with me on his shoulder and took me around and put me back out in the street. I wasn't allowed to come into the Savoy. But it was that moment that I knew that the die was cast. I knew this.